Hey, everybody, and welcome again to the Day One podcast. I'm Brett Nord.
I'm Adam Daly.
Yes, you are.
Usually. At least when I checked when I woke up this morning.
Sure. I am really excited, Adam. Do you know why?
I have a good feeling.
Guess.
You have a guest on the show.
We do.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the live discussions that we have with people because I think, I don't know, we just get a natural conversation going. Yeah. And
yes,
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and most of them start from a discussion I've had with a Day One user, and then I find out that within the 15 or 20 minutes we're chatting, there's way more here, and I would love to do a full hour or half hour podcast with them. So, and that's what we've got today with Rio Jean. Hi, Rio Jean.
Howdy.
I wasn't expecting that. That's awesome.
Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
We're excited.
Totally. Got some great questions for you. And before we do that, though, let's get an update on the app.
Yeah, okay. I don't have a ton of updates today.
Sure.
Still in the process. We did release 3.05 on Mac. It's a phased release, so it comes out in increments over a 7-day period. And then 3.6.3 was released also recently on iOS as a phased release. And that's got some fixes in it, a couple of things. In fact, one of the things users might start to see is the reference to video in the app. This is preparatory for the video support. There's still a lot of things that are being considered as far as length, size, resolution, how it syncs, etc. So those things are all being carefully considered by the team. But you're going to start seeing references to video support in the app. There is a note in the release notes on iOS 3.6.3 that mentions this. I just wanted to make sure that it was brought up to the attention of these listeners of the show so that they're aware that they're going to start seeing video in there because it's coming. We're testing it out internally and seeing how it works. One of the major components of that is going to be with our Instagram importer because videos added to Instagram will be playable in Day One because of this support. So anyway, you're going to start seeing that. This is evidence that it's coming. Yes. I promise you. I feel like sometimes I'm telling you, yeah, it's coming, and then like it doesn't come, and then another episode, and you're wondering, wait a minute, is Adam really telling me the truth? I promise I am. I promise.
Yes.
Again, that software isn't just like flipping on a switch. There's a lot of code involved and a lot of considerations to be made about how it reacts with other elements of the app or sync or whatever. So those are all being carefully made to make sure that it's going to be a feature that you're going to love. So, yeah.
Exciting.
Anything else?
No.
Those were my big ones. Oh, 1.1.5 was released on Android. It fixes several issues there, and the team is still looking at what is the future there. I'm not going to be authorized to mention more than that at this time, but just stay tuned for Android stuff.
Sure.
Okay.
Great.
Is that it? That's probably it for big stuff.
I think so.
Yeah.
We are getting close, like you said, Instagram. So we're going to have Josh on with the next few podcasts to talk about his work on getting Instagram working. Yeah.
As soon as we have like a release date or we've submitted the version that's going to have the Instagram importer in there, we're going to have our engineer, Josh Robertson, join us to talk about how that was implemented, what kind of things we went through. I like to know the obstacles that we overcame. I think those are fascinating. So we're going to get him on as soon as that's ready and in the pocket, as we say.
Sure. You say it.
I say. No, that's the first time
I've
I've ever said it. So that was a weird thing to say. It's like saying like you too to someone who like a server who's like, enjoy your meal, and you're like, you too, and then you're like, wait a minute.
Why did I say that? Next time you eat, you'll I get it.
Have a good vacation, you too.
Right.
Oh wait. Zing. Anyway, this is a story of my life. Like Rio Jean and I was like, this guy has problems. Or she's like, yeah, we all do that.
Which one was it?
I feel very validated right now.
Oh, there we go. Go. I don't feel as bad.
Well, we're going to get into this, but Rio Jean studies the brain, neuroscience. So she's
Excellent.
Probably trying to figure you out right now. Is that right?
I wouldn't say bright, but I did dabble in neuroscience.
Oh, wow. I
Awesome.
love it. I can't wait to talk about that.
Okay. That's all I have. So
great.
Let's jump into this
and
spend the majority of our time talking to Rio Jean and talking about Day One.
Well, first off, again, thank you for joining us. And, it started with a Facebook post that you input in the Day One community about some of your uses of Day One that I thought were just awesome and unique, and ways that I think most people have never even thought of using them. Your friend's journal, your ideas journal. We'll talk about those in detail. But first off, thank you for joining us. And give us a little teaser that you have worked in neuroscience and what you're doing now, but give us a little rundown of what you do in a day with work.
So on a daily basis, I manage the pre-processing pipelines for the data that's collected in the clinical setting for Alzheimer's disease research. So I helped build the software, I designed it and deployed it, and now I'm leading a small team of people to expand it and scale it up for the various studies that we have in Alzheimer's disease. So I'm really on the data side of the Alzheimer's disease research front.
That's great.
Good stuff. Short and sweet.
Yeah. So software development, so code, right? You're actually writing software?
My programming language of choice is Python.
Nice.
Good. Yeah.
That's Adam's too.
My daughter, though, has gone to like some summer code camps, and she learned a little bit of Python last year. So it was kind of cool to watch her write some scripts and run some things. So I know nothing about Python, but my 11-year-old does.
Yeah.
That's so wild.
Right?
That is great. Yeah. Well, I know you've mentioned in the past to me, having your background with software and development, how much you've appreciated some of the things that our team has done with Day One. So we'll talk about that as well. Tell me more about your work, though, and I understand you have something to talk about with your work as it relates to Day One.
So my focus is really on the data side, and it's hard to make that distinction between data science and software because a lot of the languages overlap and some of the techniques and the tools overlap as well. But I identify as somebody who utilizes the information to solve the problems that clinicians and monitors are interested in figuring out. So I primarily work with Python. I've built command line apps, and then now I'm moving into some experimental side and to sort of explore data. I found Jupyter notebooks pretty helpful for kind of getting ideas off of the plate. And I think you guys might find this kind of interesting. There's this whole community called data journaling, and the structure of it is a cookie cutter structure that you follow. So that way people can pick up any kind of data science journals, understand it, and then be familiar with how to navigate your space. And you don't have to waste time trying to figure out how this person thinks because you adopt that structure for the data science journal itself.
Wow. I'm not qualified to have that conversation.
Dumb right now.
No, I don't. That's really awesome, though. Just hearing about that. That's crazy.
It's really cool. Yeah. I use Day One a lot for managing both my work, my personal and emotional friendship, all of these kinds of relationships. But something that's been kind of new and exciting to me was leveraging Day One and its tools for my data science learning. So that's a new journal that I've created recently. And I got to incorporate, so I built a little command line app that can coalesce my data science findings with my Day One thoughts. So whenever I'm kind of walking around, I can pull up my data science journal and then kind of think about data and then kind of type something up. And I write pseudocode for ideas that I have if I'm standing in line at the grocery or something. And, it's pretty cool to be able to leverage that app.
Me too. Yeah. That's what I do when I'm waiting in the grocery line.
He does. He codes while he's waiting in the grocery store.
Pseudo.
No, but I that's awesome because it makes your information accessible wherever you are. You have that opportunity to just pull out your phone, jot down some notes, because sometimes those streams of consciousness or those ideas come when you don't necessarily have a pen and paper ready.
Sure.
But most people do have their phone on them or a device, so.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Your hashtags are pretty powerful too, because sometimes, so I have made an update since the last post that you saw, Brett.
Yeah.
So you saw it, I structured it as grooming, I think, and then incomplete thoughts or something, and journal for some, and below would be some more fleshed out things that are categorical. And in my new updated version, right? My 2.0, they are. I've structured it to mirror the data science learning ideologies. So on the top, I renamed grooming to explore, because in data science, typically you have this folder that's sort of a mess, a stream of consciousness, and you call it exploring because you're exploring different ideas and data. And then I have below that, I have scrapped and incomplete thoughts. And the reason why I do that is because I mentioned this before, I have my monthly unpack. So at the end of every month, I can toss those exploratory journals into either scrapped or incomplete thoughts. And then now that they're grouped, I don't have to delete anything. Like maybe it was a bad idea. It doesn't matter. It was an idea. I wrote it down. And then I can flush out my incomplete thoughts into more things that are a little bit more poignant.
That's awesome. So that sounds pretty high functioning. How did you get to develop this? What process did you go through to get to that point, to change to what it is now from what it was before, and then even from ex nihilo creation, basically, of like how did you start thinking about how you wanted to separate those things out and get that information in there?
I started realizing that I was generating a lot of content and it was overwhelming, and I wanted to be able to actually focus on the things that I thought would be meaningful. So no matter how stupid the idea was, I would just go ahead and write it down and say I could figure it out later. And during my monthly unpacks, having those two groups, like scrapped and incomplete thoughts, let me realize like, whoa, my brain went all over the place. Like I didn't even realize I had so many different thoughts on different ends of the spectrum. So it kind of was really refreshing to get to know myself a little bit more by having that moment of introspection. But it also held myself responsible for the ideas that I had and wanted to flesh out later on. And here's the thing that ended up being really cool. So I had all of these ideas, and on the side, I do volunteering for like maybe it's like a one-day volunteer thing, or I do beach cleanups for Surf Rider. Like I'm not a full-fledged member, but one of the things that I'm really proud of is being a Django Girl coach. And I always talk about like certain things, and what was really useful was having day one on my phone. And so I was talking to this company about like ideas that I had and philosophies, and I didn't even realize it would come in handy. But when we were talking about it, I was like, oh, let me pull it out on my phone. And like I went through and kind of showed them some ideas that I've had. Like, oh, here are some things that I've done. And like, here are some like passages that I wrote. And oh, this is a cool idea too. So as we were going through it, it really resonated with them. And what was surprising was they were also drawn to the friendship affirmation section. You too, you are also drawn to that too, Brett. Like you thought that stood out. So the company really liked how I was an empathetic individual, and I had history, like a proven history on my phone to show who I am as a person. And I never intended for the app to be like a resume or something that like to brag or anything, but it happened very organically. And when they decided to meet with me for a formal interview, I was completely floored. Like I was just like, whoa.
Well, congrats. That's exciting.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to see what happens to me next, and kind of scared, but I'll log all of those complex emotions in my day one.
There you go.
Well, no, what I'm pulling from this is there's value in putting in more data than you think you may need at the time. Because sometimes I feel like I curate in my brain way earlier than I'm sitting at my keyboard sometimes. Sure. And maybe that's a hindrance to myself. Maybe that's something I can take a look at and, just enter in all information that I've got, do that free flow thing. And then if I use it, fine. If not, have some sort of separate folder that I could put it in, and it's still there. Yeah. Because it existed at one point. Maybe I need to reference it later or something, but that's a really good idea. I really like that.
So, and it's helpful to have that time schedule to go back and click through all of the things that you've done through that month. Because, as much content as I generate, like reviewing it on a monthly basis is totally manageable. Because it's really easy to identify a bad idea.
So is Scrapped a journal? The name of one of your journals is Scrapped? To be scrapped or scrapped?
So I literally drag and drop all of the stuff I explore into either scrapped or incomplete thoughts. Okay. And on an average month, I think that I have about like 100 entries.
Wow.
Yeah, but they can range from like one sentence or a word to like, a full-fledged essay, basically.
Wow.
Do you delete anything, or just scrapped would be where you would
I just
put
scrap. I don't delete anything. I don't know if that's what they're like. Oh,
No,
crap, they're generating way too much data.
We have some users with a lot of data. I don't know, how many entries do you have?
Total entries.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And we should back up. You just started this year, didn't you, with Day One? You haven't been using Day One that long.
How do I see when I started? I started, my first entry was January 2018.
Okay.
So a year.
And then in like the all entries view, like in the journal, are you on your Mac or?
I'm on my Mac, but I have my phone right beside me.
Either way, if you go to all entries in the journal drawer, that'll show you a collective count of all entries, images, etc.
I have 486.
Nice.
So yeah, it's this year that I really started getting into it,
Yeah.
and that's when I did the post. But I mentioned that I had like, an entry here, an entry there, and then within this past 6 months, I went crazy.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that I think that's perfectly acceptable, and I love the idea of keeping information around, just as at least a reference point. We have users, not a lot, but we have users that have 20,000 plus entries, and so you've got a ways to go. And I'm sure after listening to what you've told me so far, I have no doubt that you'll be able to accomplish that. So
I saw in the Day One community, some people are backtracking.
Yep.
And they're uploading some of the journals that they have in their archives.
Yep.
Wait till video.
Yeah, there's some import stuff that you can do. Obviously, adding pictures, and if that picture has any EXIF data, it can be automatically applied to the entry. And there's some really cool ways to do that. I've tried like transcribing old written journals. Then I just got lazy and thought, this is tedious.
I'm not about that life.
This is too tedious. Maybe I'll just take pictures of the page and call it good. But
that's something that I would definitely do. Also, there's something quite quaint about looking at your old handwriting.
Yes,
Yeah.
Agreed. 100% agree. That's
I
awesome.
have some physical journals from when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
It's crazy. I was such a child back then.
And you're still so young. I can't believe how much you've accomplished with your degrees.
Oh, gosh, stop.
No, I'm
Shucks.
serious. Impressive. It's amazing. Good stuff. And let's talk about, okay, so we've talked a lot about work uses. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we move on to your personal use of Day One? Professional?
I guess I focused on the things that I was really excited about.
Yeah.
I have my Day One up here right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how do you differentiate your entries that are personal versus business, or your ideas for work versus personal ideas?
So it's pretty easy because I have like separate categories for them. Like, I think journal and poems and all of those things are obviously like personal.
Sure.
So it's really, it's nice to be able to, put those away.
Yeah. Do you follow the same format for your personal, like you said, the scrapped and your incomplete ideas? Do you follow that as well for personal?
Well, after the incomplete, after it's grouped into scrapped and incomplete thoughts, the next thing that I'll do is like while going through the incomplete thoughts, then I'll go and categorize it. So the incomplete thoughts usually doesn't have more than like maybe 4 journals at a time or something, because I'll be pretty diligent about putting it in its proper group. I know I sound pretty crazy.
No.
As I'm saying these words escape my mouth, I'm like, okay.
No. Organized is what I would say. 100%. And I'm a little bit jealous because I'm not as I get in organizational like spats, if I can use that word. But I'm a little bit jealous. I kind of love the idea of being able to do this. So I'm making notes.
I'm waiting for you to write an ebook that I can just follow your formula.
Well, I think that so I've been writing a lot, and I've noticed that like as I have my Day One, some of this stuff, I've talked to other people, and friends and people that are close to me have said, wow, I really wish I could read something like about this. Like I wish that I could read this, like I don't mean to toot my own horn. It's going to sound so embarrassing, but one of my friends, like, this could be like a New York Times article or something. And, so I am really working on allowing myself to be more of a presence on the internet. It's a little bit weird for me.
Sure.
But if people can relate to it, then I think it's worth a shot doing it. And where I'm going to start first is probably something a little bit less personal, like data science, even though there's a ton of content out there.
Sure.
If it can help another person with their journey, then it's something that I'm interested in, starting to publish.
Well, and the stuff you're sharing too is that they're healthy things too, in my opinion. Like, so I have my own personal reservations about sharing on social media. And you kind of mentioned some hesitation there of like kind of getting into that, but I think like obviously some people would really benefit from hearing healthy mechanisms on how to organize their thoughts and be able to express themselves on a journal system, and it's really healthy.
Yeah, the need to share that becomes larger than your fear of like wanting to put yourself out there, because you realize the focus is really on what you're providing in the information. It's not about you anymore.
And then sometimes I get a little bit in my head. I'm thinking to myself, what's my motivation?
Yes,
like I want to make sure I'm doing this from a good place rather than somewhere that's kind of narcissistic, and I want to get some positive feedback on Instagram or something.
Right.
Exactly. Amen.
And when you write your book, we'll feature it on the Facebook community.
Oh, yeah.
Read it and talk about it.
Heck yes.
It's going to be great. Plan on it.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm going to start it off simple and like maybe write a blog post here or there.
Yeah.
And see where that.
Sure. That'd be great. I'm super excited to talk about your friend's journal. Can we do that now?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it. So tell us about, I'm also as curious as kind of how it came to be as what it is. So back up and walk us through how that came to be.
I was in a really dark place, at one point where I was really struggling with some of the things that were happening in my life. And then I was very fortunate to have a group of people, like people that I chose to be around me, be extremely supportive. And they just brought me so much tremendous happiness during those times of darkness, So I just started writing about it in my journal, about like people I want to appreciate, and it brought me so much joy. So I wanted to make it a habit because it was just such an easy way to make myself happy, is by thinking about a person and thinking about how awesome they are.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's what. No, I want to sing some John Lennon right now or something.
Kumbaya. Let's do it. Hold hands, Adam. Let's do it.
No, it may come off like that a little bit, but not really. I think that's another healthy mechanism that I think we need more of. And that for me, I mean, is part of the reason I do this podcast. It's why I love working for Day One, because this isn't just like a consumable product that we're making. It's a healthy outlook to store your memories, etc. And you can go so much farther beyond that.
Sure.
So mushy gushy, like whatever, like whoever's making that judgment call needs to check themselves, because that's a healthy thing that we need to be doing. Talking well about each other, supporting each other. Right.
And it also is kind of nice because I let it happen mostly organically, but I also have a Excel spreadsheet with like a ton of friends that I have that like if I can't think of someone for that week to appreciate, then I can just go to that like spreadsheet and say, oh yeah, this person exists in my life, and it challenges me to think about when the last time I talked to them actually was, and I say, whoa, Rio Jean, you gotta call this person. See what's going on in their life.
Yeah, and all these things are coming out of that too. Right. Just talking about making a phone call to someone because you haven't talked to them in a while. How often does that happen?
Right. So you've talked about the need for, or how you came to want to have this idea. Now tell us about the idea specifically. You started with a spreadsheet.
Yeah, so I have the spreadsheet, and what I mostly do is like maybe if I'm walking around and I think about something funny that like my friend did that one time and it made me smile, I'll like pull out my Day One and like be like, okay, this is the person that I'm gonna have my friend affirmation for this week. And I have a template that I can refer to for ideas, and like I said, it's mostly organic, but this helped. Like I really like using this, and the questions I ask myself are, how has this friend influenced me? When was the last time I saw this person? List 3 qualities that I want them to know about themselves, and share a memory or quote. So I can either do all of them, or just like, if it's only one thing, then I just let it roll with whatever it is. Yeah.
Cool.
And that's where your markdown comes in handy, because
Yep.
for all of my templates, I use that the pink markdown with the 3 hashtags.
Yep.
Yeah. So that way I can like have the normal text right under it, the question.
Now,
Yeah.
where are you storing this template for now?
I have one called templates. So my templates have my my monthly unpack also on it. Yeah, let's see. I have a monthly, so I have these questions that are like pretty obvious, like what was the most memorable part, what lessons I learned, and review my day one. And and I also rate every single month at the end of it. And that's a really helpful metric for seeing like okay, wow, January really sucked, but February was really awesome. You know? Yeah.
Well,
It puts life into perspective, because you can accept. It's easier to accept the downs when you can recognize that there are also highs.
yeah, that's
sure.
great. I wanted to mention, sometimes we like to reveal stuff that's coming up very soon to our listeners here on the show, and one of those is our custom templates that you can access.
Oh, cool.
And so you won't have to like copy and paste and stuff like that if that's what you're doing now. This will allow you to create your own template. You can use the markdown same as before, like add headers and stuff like that. And so that when you go to create an entry, you tap the little plus button at the bottom and choose your template, and it loads right into an entry.
That's pretty sweet.
So we're working on that right now.
I want to see the Rio Jean friendship template.
No, absolutely. Can't wait.
Yep. Use
Can't
that.
wait.
So, okay, I'm still getting caught up on the details.
This isn't like a totally, novel idea. There's a ton of that kind of stuff online.
You're right.
Although, honestly, I've never seen it in the way that you're implementing it.
Yeah.
Where, it's one thing to say, I want a reminder to say hi to, call a friend today. But you're actually methodically listing your friends. You haven't got to it yet, but I love that you take a picture of your friend, not just any picture, but a picture they're happy with. You even run it past them, say, is this a picture that you think, is good for you? I love that. I mean, this is, yes, it seems a little procedural, but if we don't do it like that, it almost feels like we'll never, we won't do it.
Yep.
And we do care about people. It's not that we don't. It's just we don't actually follow through enough.
And, the procedure makes it sound like a task, but when you're doing it yourself, it really isn't.
It's got to come from a real place, a natural place of
because
authenticity.
it's just like figuring out a way to give your friend a call. And when you have something like that, it makes it a little bit ironically less awkward, because you can say, oh, I'm doing this like thing where I have a friend affirmation journal, and like I want to catch up. What are you about?
That's great. Yeah.
Awesome.
No, I love that. And in person or over the phone conversations with people, I'm all about that. I love that.
Have you had a friend, Rio Jean, that said, oh, you're doing that affirmation thing again? Like, you just called me because it's on your list today.
No, so I haven't posted this anywhere except for the Day One community.
Nice.
I haven't posted it on Facebook. So
we won't tell your friends.
When I reach out to them, it's a surprise.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's probably one of the best surprise. Like, I'm just thinking, like, what if one of my friends did that? I would be so happy. Mm-hmm. That would make my day. That would make my day.
My perspective is heavily shaped by gratitude. I feel like I got really lucky to come to San Diego. And when I came here, I didn't know a single person. I was completely on my own. So starting from complete scratch puts your life into perspective, and you realize how important and essential it is to build meaningful relationships. So all of a sudden, I didn't have my alumni, I didn't have like my classmates or something to support me.
Sure.
So every relationship that I built here in San Diego was through effort.
Wow, that's cool. How many friends can you have at this level? Look at your spreadsheet. How many can you manage, to say, okay, I've got this many friends that actively I can work through a list to keep in touch with?
I actually put down 56 friends because there's 56 weeks in a year. Sorry, I sound so procedural.
I love it. Wow.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So you focus on one friend 1 week and then ignore them the other weeks of the year.
Exactly.
Sorry, I got to move on. I got a list.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I got to get to know 56 people first, though.
56 people, Brett. Oh my gosh.
Not
this guy
enough
knows
that I'd wanna
everyone.
call.
it's surprising because I put down those 56, but I'm not going through that list. Like, sometimes
Sure.
I'm just like, oh yeah, I want to do this person, and I just
Yeah.
let it happen.
Nice. That's great. Do you have any reminders with day one or anything that reminds you to do this, or is this something that you have pop up
Yeah,
on your?
I have I have to put it on my calendar because these months lately have just been flying by, and if I don't, then I won't make time for it.
Mm.
Yeah, especially for the monthly unpack. The friend affirmation was pretty easy because, I can just pull up my phone and start typing. But the
Nice.
monthly unpack needs like a solid hour or something.
Wow. So you'll have I'm just again trying to see this in my mind. You'll have one entry with the person's name, their picture, and then go through the questions that you asked for each. So each friend has their own entry in day one as well as it's on a spreadsheet.
Yeah, the spreadsheet is there for a reference for
Okay.
whenever I get like a roadblock of who to kind of affirm that week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Tags versus journals. Do you use
Say
both?
that again?
Do you use tags versus for organization or?
I use so I don't leverage tags as much as I probably could. I do it for my data science stuff because it's a little bit everywhere,
Mhm.
because it could be a mix of personal / work or things, whatever. So the only one that I use is for data science learning.
Okay.
But the other things, I just have so many journals because I prefer them being grouped together.
Yeah, that's kind of the camp I'm in. But we like to figure out that question, see how people use it, and
Yeah.
and maybe that gives answers to our listeners as well, like how they can best organize or just give them ideas. So it's one of my favorite questions.
Yeah. So how many journals do you have?
Ooh, good question. Let's see. Is there a way to see without counting? 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yes,
5,
in the settings.
8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16 journals.
Nice. That's good. That's a good number.
Yeah. Manageable.
Okay, cool.
Great.
Yeah.
How about your favorite feature, Rio Jean, of day one?
Markdown, definitely markdown. Like it's pretty seamless.
Nice.
Good. We'll pass that on to the team.
Oh no!
Keep Markdown. Keep it.
What does that mean?
It doesn't mean anything. The only reason I say that, well, in version 3 on iOS and then version 2.8 on Mac, we introduced a brand new editor. We used to be all Markdown with two different views, like a read view, an edit view where it was just a plain text editor thing, and then when you hit done, it was an HTML view which rendered all of your Markdown, right? We built an all-new editor in preparation for features like video support, etc. And it's not necessarily written in Markdown. It converts Markdown on the fly, which is why you're experiencing that. So I don't think that's going away. It's just not like
As full feature.
it's just not the primary.
Doesn't it already
thing.
do that though? Does
Yes.
It already
Yes.
my text after I start the markdown.
Yep. And you can still type Markdown. It just converts on the fly. So it's not like
That's what I really like.
okay,
I like
perfect.
Because it's for me. I like being able to see it as I'm working through it.
Okay.
Because if I wanted to just have plain Markdown, I'll just use Sublime or like VS Code or something.
Right. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, then no, I'm not scaring you at all. Then.
No, okay. I was like, no, don't go breaking my heart.
That would, yeah.
No,
your
but that's
favorite feature.
good. That's good feedback though, and I still am going to pass that on to the team so they understand. Like that's Markdown is something a lot of our users are still using, and that's we hope that will stay around forever, and that support can grow maybe for different things. I know there's like footnote support in Markdown and stuff. I think we'd like to do in the future. So.
Oh, I actually don't know what that feature in Markdown is.
It's I've learned a lot about Markdown since I've been at day one. I don't always get it, but I learn. I'm picking up on it.
Yeah. Just in time for us to remove it. No.
Well, no, I think one of the main reasons, like I said, one of the main reasons to switch to the new editor was to support future features that I think the team decided it would be easier to do it with a single view instead of a edit and read view. And they can correct me if I'm completely off base on here, but this is from what I understand. Right. But also, like as a journal app, just as a journal app, the target audience is pretty broad, and not all of our users were familiar with Markdown, and so we wanted also a simpler editor, rich text where they can just add like, oh, I want to do italics here. I'll just tap the italics button and it invokes that, right?
Sure.
So,
is there any way to figure out how much of your audience is leveraging the Markdown?
excellent question. I don't know. That's a great question. I have no idea.
We'll start a poll on Facebook at least and get some idea from.
No, we could absolutely. I mean, that will at least give us a smaller sample of about 4,500 people. But yeah, that'd be a good place to start. But I don't know if there's anything on the back end that would tell us that, especially since the text is converted, as soon as you type it. So
somebody could be using the UI itself.
Right. Oh, good point. Yeah, as opposed to typing it. Yeah, I don't know. Well, again, like your entries are encrypted, so I don't know I don't know. I have no idea.
You can ask. Sure.
Yeah, they better be.
Yes.
Anyway, that's great though. So Markdown is your favorite feature. Is there something you wish that was in day one that's not in there now, or?
Something that's in day one. I guess the one thing that I did think about before was when you do the printout version, you can't really distinguish journals. If I wanted to do the printout, it would be nice if there was a banner with that journal color that I picked. And then, if I print out the book, I could have like maybe 3 journals in there. And then like there would be some kind of or even on the side, like all the way on the right hand, you could have like a color of a tab or something.
Yeah.
Because that way, if you kind of like, bend the pages of a book, you can see all of the journals and almost have like a visual of how much you have like logged in each journal.
I like
so you can
that.
see like where your like what map out where your ideas are flowing to.
Awesome. I'm writing this down because I think it's a great idea.
And I'm seeing him do it. Good job, Adam.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean?
Yes.
By, like,
Yep. You're talking about multiple journals in a single book that you want to print. Have a better indication of
visual
of the journal that's being used for those entries, right?
And how many entries.
So I don't know how popular that would be, but like what I kind of envision is almost like all the way on the right hand side is like the color of the journal, and it's like it can be, what do you call it? Like tabs on a binder, or it could be like,
sure,
really located based on how you organize your journal, and then you can like bend it and then see the colors a little. I think that would be pretty nifty.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. I like that. That's that's totally unique too. I've never heard that request before, so I love it.
It's good. Well done.
Oh.
Awesome.
This is just full of information,
right?
You're welcome. Free market research.
Sounds great. Is there anything else that I'm trying to remember from our conversation. I think we covered all the things that I wanted to cover. Is there anything that you think we've missed to discuss?
I don't think so. I mean, there was one thing, was adopting the whole reason why I kind of structured this is a part of it was the data science journaling, but another part of it was Kanban. Are you guys familiar with Kanban?
I'm not.
So
tell me.
Yeah, Kanban is it's sort of this board that software developers use, so that way they can track their issues, right? So you have like the to-do lane, so you have these swim lanes. What did you call it?
Sorry, Trello. We talked about.
Trello Kanban boards, right? So I modeled it after like something like Trello, So you can. So that's why I like to have that idea, the Explore folder, and then it can be grouped into the scrap, and you can move it along your swim lanes. So instead of that column format, it's basically Trello for me, but going down the row without the pressure of like seeing all of your tasks. That can be kind of overwhelming because for me, they're not really tasks, but they're these ideas that I think would be cool to pursue.
And that's in your monthly review where you would move them from one category to another.
Yeah, exactly.
Unpack. What'd you call your?
Yeah, I call it monthly unpack.
Love it. Cool.
I'm guessing you set aside time for that. Like last Monday of every week or last Sunday of every week, every month or whatever, you're going to do this, right?
Yeah, I usually just do it on like whatever the day is before the first, or sometimes I'll do it on the first of the following month, and so that gets me ready. And it helps to segment the year because it's pretty overwhelming, all of the stuff that's happening in my life. It feels like it's all going by so fast.
Monthly unpack.
Nice.
That's just another healthy thing.
Right.
Oh. All right, I'm coming
Great
away
stuff.
from this with a lot of good ideas here.
Same.
Monthly
Yeah.
unpack.
I knew it was going to be like this, and it is.
This is so great.
Yeah, thank you. Good stuff. And I can't wait. I want to do another follow-up in 6 months and see if you're still doing everything you're doing now. And if we are doing everything you're doing now.
Yeah, no,
We
and
learned.
Cool.
we talk a lot about habits and building routines, and Day One has a lot of mechanisms I think that help that. Reminders and notifications, templates coming soon, etc. But do we actually, use those features to build the routine? And it definitely sounds like I don't know how your routines were prior to Day One, but it sounds like you eventually built into something that's really helpful for you, and I think that's just fantastic.
So many different things, like like all of those like planners, like all the stuff that got trending, the bullet journal, but I couldn't stick to any of it. And then I had Day One, and I'm just so drawn to tech, and I love technology a lot. It made so much sense to my brain. So I think that Day One works a lot for me, but I could imagine that some people's brains who prefer like having the material object in front of them, maybe it might not work. You don't know. Sorry, that's not a reflection of your
No.
No, it's true. Got to find what works.
Not at all. And I'm a proponent of that. I mean, obviously, I like Day One to stay in business because I like my job, but obviously we all have to decide what we want to do, what's going to work best for us, and I'm a big fan of that. So if it works for you, then
even for me, there are some moments where I think that creativity is better suited for having something that's handwritten. So I have from the dollar store, I bought like a little pack of these like with no line journals where I'll just write something, and like if it starts flowing, then I can switch to the app, and then I'm like I get stuck again. Sometimes I'll like switch back to the $1 like little thing that I have, and it's kind of cool to just let whatever is most comfortable for me, whether it's working in Day One, a Jupyter notebook, or an actual notebook. I have all of the tools.
I have the same workflow, but instead of a notepad, it's chocolate. Chocolate, and that helps me get going, and then I write things,
also from the dollar store.
Yes. No. Got to get good quality.
You've got quality chocolates, right?
If you're going to do it, right? If you're going to indulge, you got to have the good stuff. It's not worth anything less.
Where do you get your chocolates, man?
That's a personal question.
Yeah.
I'll share that.
He has a supplier.
Yeah, right.
Keep it secret.
Yeah. Maybe later.
He's this chocolate guy.
Yeah. It's code word for something. No, it's not. It's really chocolate.
Yeah.
Dark chocolate. Rio Jean, thank you so much. This was
thanks for being on the episode.
Tons packed.
Yeah, thanks for
packed
having me.
in here. Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and thanks for using Day One. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And keep up the good work, guys. Don't get rid of Markdown, otherwise I will cry and have a mental breakdown.
I don't want to see that.
No,
We better not, then.
definitely not. We CEO of Day One listens to these episodes, so we know that he loves to hear from our listeners and hear what we're talking about. So that'll definitely be on his mind.
Yeah, I'll probably just have to re-engineer.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. Just one last thing I want to mention is we do have a book club discussion coming up on our Facebook community.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so this will air on Monday or be released on Monday. It's actually going to be the Thursday of next week, so that's May 9th.
May 9th.
We had Vibar on a few podcasts ago, and he talked about his latest book called Primate Change, using technology and how we have to deal with, all the new things we have to do, standing instead of sitting and things. I thought it was a really great discussion, and he's going to actually moderate that discussion. So be there for Q&A. He's going to give away some books. It's going to be fun.
Hey, the author, come on.
Right.
Everybody join in.
Right. It's not just that he's promoting a book. He's a Day One user, so he uses Day One in his gathering for data, his research he does, as well as when he writes his book. So that will be great.
Ooh la la.
Yeah, so May 9th is going to be at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. He's in the UK, so it's nice that he's going to join us from the evening for that discussion. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, and if you don't have the book now, check it out on Amazon or wherever else you can find Primate Change. There's a link actually in the episode where we did with Vibar. So if you just go look for that title, then you can find that episode and get the link to the book real easily. As well as in this episode description, you can find helpful links for support, for our help guides, for contacting Brett and setting up a conversation, because we love doing these.
I do.
And so check out those links below if you have any needs for Day One or need to contact support or need the help guides. Check those out.
Thanks everyone for listening to the Day One podcast.
We'll talk to you in the next couple of weeks.
Right.